So let's answer the question, why doesn't God do anything when we ask Him for justice? Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. This commenter says, why doesn't God do anything when we ask Him for justice against abusers? He even gives abusers more power and blessings. I've answered a question like this, very similar before, but I think it's a good time to revisit. And I love it so much because it's one of those questions that if you've ever been through some stuff, if you believe in God, universe, or whatever, we've all kind of had this question, right? And it happens for a number of reasons. Um, Everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. So if it doesn't apply to you, please let it fly. But it happens for a number of reasons. It happens when we overgive in a relationship and we don't get back anything, half of what we put into it. It happens when we allow people that mistreat us to overstay their welcome. So we wish, we overcompensated and stayed in a relationship way too long. So we feel like we're kind of owed something. It also happens when people uh, mistreat you, physically, sexually, financially, even all kinds of stuff, right? It happens in a number of ways. And one of the things, one of the things that, religion tells us is, especially if you grew up black, you're Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever the case may be, a lot of us, it was hammered into us, just pray about it. God's going to take care of it, that kind of thing. And so we pray about it and we're looking for instant, I have a co-host there. We pray about it and we're looking for like instant, like results. But if you know anything about God and the way He or she moves, nothing is instant. God moves on His time and He moves mysteriously. So that's the one thing I will say. Um, the other thing that I will say is, while it may look on the outside, abusers are very good at having an outside, profile where they look good to everybody. That's why the family, families can look picture perfect, but they're at home getting the crap beat out of them, that kind of stuff. And abusers are good at putting an outward profile on to the public and making themselves look better than what they've really got going on when inside their home is really falling apart. So number one, don't ever believe anything that you see on the outside. And while some people may get power and blessings, that does happen. I will also say sometimes people also pay for it on the back end in ways that you don't see. Sometimes you get to hear about their suffering, and there are other times when you don't. I think the biggest caveat, though, is, learning about yourself and what did this relationship teach you about yourself. A lot of times, too, we also pray to God for fairness, justice, retribution. Sometimes, I won't say all the time, sometimes it's because we betrayed ourselves in a way that we didn't stick up for ourselves. And I'm not talking about people who were attacked and all that kind of stuff, because of course that's a different type of situation. But I'm talking about people who stay with partners or, family members that aren't good for them. So in a lot of times we're asking God to kind of take up for us where we didn't take up for ourselves. And so you have to look at what each situation, what each person is trying to tell you. For example, did you stay in a relationship too long? Do you need to be better about advocating for yourself? Do you need to be more selfish? Do you need to improve your vetting process? Do you need to uh, have more self-esteem, more self-confidence? Do you need to practice self-love more so that when somebody shows you a little bit of attention, you won't be love starved, right? And trying to soak up as much of it as possible. So just kind of look at like what does each situation, what is each person in my life, and what is each situation in my life trying to tell me? Um, so there's that. But I think number three, I think a lot of people get their payback, and sometimes it's not. Again, it's not immediate because if an abusive person goes for years abusing you, chances are they are abusive to other people, and one day luck just runs out. Period. And so sometimes it happens, and I'll tell you, I've you know, as much as I've asked myself this question, one of the things that I have started to see, especially in my later years, I'm 46 now. I may have been asking this question when I was like 20, 30, but it's starting to like come around where I'm actually physically able to see people sort of I'm starting to see the wheels of justice turn. And this isn't me sort of gloating about it. This is just me talking about my experience where I'm starting to see the wheels of justice turn, especially in like my profession where people may have mistreated me or mishandled me. I personally have seen the wheels of justice turn where so and so got this or so and so got that. And so it was like glaringly in my face, like it just sort of fell into my lap. And so where I may have asked that question 10 or 20 years ago, it is now coming back around. So, and it's been very interesting to see because it's almost like for me, my experience has been I'm starting to see it one by one by one within a short span of time. I would say within the past year or two, I've seen quite a few cases of that. And everything that I had predicted would happen or thought should happen, has actually been happening. So you can actually see, like, when you say, like, okay, he's abusive, at a certain point, that that person is going to get caught up. And sure enough, the things that you saw the things that I saw when I was younger, whether someone was maybe sexually inappropriate on a job or something like that, they get caught up for sexual stuff. But I also believe, fourthly, you know, that the biggest sort of justice is to not allow anybody or any one thing to ever have power over you. You do not want to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. So that's one thing. I mean, there's people you can certainly sue. You can file criminal charges if your situation falls into that realm. So you can always talk to a professional about maybe next steps. But for those of you who maybe that doesn't apply to, I would say be sure not to allow. I think trauma always changes your brain chemistry, whether it's relationship or not, but you have the power to decide whether or not it's going to change your life, your outlook on life, and whether or not it's going to affect your mood. And sometimes that might happen for a few years, but you have to be intentional and make a conscious decision. No, I have, a few years on earth. I'm going to do the best with my life as what I can. And so I'm going to give more power to that as opposed to someone who wronged me and whatever happens to them, happens to them. And, the last thing I'll say is this, by the time, it caught up, to me and I actually saw it, it was like, oh, it's kind of like, oh, I wasn't really like, I wasn't really in a space anymore. I almost felt kind of, saddened by it, where I wasn't in a space of like wishing for it or question, not necessarily even wishing for it, but just questioning why such things didn't happen. So I hope that helps. Thanks so much.